The Bear has re-emerged from its brief hibernation with the release of Season 3, a 10-episode affair that saw all episodes released at once. After amassing an impressive trophy collection for Season 2 during awards season, people were eager to hop back in the kitchen to fire up a few more courses of this dramedy. With a great mix of realistic, flawed characters, engrossing cinematography, and tense moments that pull you into the story, The Bear quickly became one of television's top shows. But let's be honest, the explicit, hardcore food porn had a lot to do with its initial success and staying power. After having a fairly high bar set for its third outing, does the new season live up to the hype? Does it deliver more of what people expect from the show and build on the success of previous seasons? Or are there problems brewing in the back of the house? We'll set out to answer those questions in this spoiler-free review right after we run down the premise for Season 3. The third season begins with a full episode showing a sort of montage of the formative events of head chef Carmi's career and personal life, before the second episode picks things up the morning after the events of last season's finale. At the end of Season 2, after Carmi accidentally locked himself in the walk-in freezer on the opening night of his dream restaurant, his constant, simmering, self-imposed stress finally boiled over as he lashed out at his best friend, his employees, and his girlfriend, causing some already strained relationships to reach their breaking point. The next morning, Carmi has to pick up the pieces, mend bridges, and inspire his partner, friends, and family to buy into his ambitious plan. He's now determined to push for a Michelin star for his restaurant. The Bear, in Carmi's mind, must be run to the exacting standards he's seen during his tenure at other high-caliber restaurants. And these imposing new goals promise to compound his mounting stress and once again test relationships that haven't been fully healed, all the while with the restaurant operating in the red. After some initial disbelief at what's now being asked of them, and in their ability to meet those standards, the ragtag team under Chef Carmi and Chef Sydney tie on their aprons and fire things up for the Bear's run at a Michelin star. And for the verdict, in deciding if Season 3 of The Bear is a great watch or a hate watch, we're actually giving it a debate watch designation. And even that is just by the skin of this bear's teeth, as the show takes a surprising step back from everything they had been building up. Season 3 feels way more like an extended epilogue to Season 2 than a true season in its own right. Or it feels more like a self-indulgent victory lap for those with a more cynical view. The Bear still delivers the same gripping imagery and the same level of food porn as in previous seasons, but in terms of the story and the characters that we follow, nothing really happened. And the writing was on the wall with the first episode. It's an entire episode of loosely structured backstory from the past that doesn't change much of how we view the present. At best, it's a bit of a drag at 35 minutes of flashback montage, but it's definitely a style choice that will work for some and turn off others. There was virtually no growth to speak of upon the events of the previous seasons and the strained relationships the characters found themselves in. The circumstances at the restaurant, and where everyone is at the end of the season in terms of those complex interpersonal relationships, neither hardly change at all from where they started in Episode 2. This flashback-heavy season seems to spend so much time in the past that the show forgets to move forward. And these flashbacks tend to just be backfilling character stories, rather than showing us anything that reframes how we see the character and the challenges they're facing in the present. Scenes have a tendency to drag on well past making their point without really adding anything new to the characters' relationships, so it just ends up feeling like they're standing around at times. The obvious, contentious issues bubbling under the surface between characters are routinely put off to deal with later, so there isn't much real advancement or healing in people's relationships, and due to that, like I said, we end up largely at the same place at the end of the season as we were at the beginning. And you'd think a season with such little story advancement would make up for it in their character work, but there really wasn't much happening there either. The closest thing we got to true character development for a main character didn't happen until halfway through the last episode. Season 3 was just kinda weird in that regard. You hate to use these kinds of words for what has generally been a good show during the 3 courses that have been served up, but Season 3 felt self-indulgent and a bit ridiculous when you step back. It's self-indulgent in that they could make a full season where there were less than 4 scenes that advanced the overarching story, and even fewer where characters actually developed. And it's a bit ridiculous to think that they can get by with just good visuals and characters silently staring at nothing in particular for 3 minutes while we listen to licensed music. To close with a few positives, The Bear hasn't lost a step in terms of its visuals and cinematography. It's still very well acted, and it can still deliver tense, heated moments where you feel sucked into the kitchen yourself. Also, the episodes are pretty short, so it's an easily bingeable show. But all of that is not nearly enough to keep this show on even footing with seasons 1 and 2. Season 3 of The Bear just does a lot without really doing anything when you think about it. It's not all that different from previous seasons in terms of the look and the tone and the tenor, but it just feels like the main story and its characters completely stalled out and didn't take a step forward from season 2. And it doesn't fulfill its mandate of paying off the season's premise introduced in the first 2 episodes. In my opinion, season 3 is pretty undercooked and should have stayed on the burner for a bit longer. Did you watch season 3 of The Bear? If so, what did you think of it? Did you have high expectations after the first 2 seasons? Let us know in the comments below. Also remember to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing to Hate Watchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for serving up some medium rare chicken with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.